What's up? This is Gardy with Clear Life Media, Clear Life Combat. We're at the Clear Life HQ in Leak City. I have a guest in studio. I'm going to let him introduce himself. We're going to find out everything he has going on. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, man, it's going good. How's it going?
It's going good here.
Man, I'm in awe of this beautiful spot that y'all have got. It's my first time out here, and just taking a tour of the facility. Y'all are doing it right. Beautiful spot, paint job, flooring, sound stuff on the wall. Like, this is really, really, really nice. So it's really nice to have seen the come up, on y'all's end. Thank you for having me out and allowing me to share my story here at Clear Life.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Somebody hasn't met you before. I know you train, other people. You train, yourself, and then there's some things that you've done and accomplished. And let's get started. I guess from the beginning, how, or even what do you have going on now, and then how did it all start?
All right, so let's go with the jiu-jitsu, part of it, since this is Clear Life Combat, right? I've been training 15 years under Alex Morano over at Gracie Baja the Woodlands over there on the far north side, right? And we've got a really, really, really good gym out there. Numbers are really high. I'm going to say that the culture is first class. I know in the combat sports world, there's a lot of people that join and then they fall off. I think one of the hallmarks of our gym is the culture, because when people sign up, they tend to stick around for quite a while, so Alex has helped raise, a good number of black belts and, professional and amateur fighters. And I think the thing that is special, or the secret sauce, is the culture, and I think that's important for any and everything, right? Like, it could be your business here at Clear Life. It could be the school that I work at, Knox Junior High. For me, culture is everything.
Jake Heffernan, he just retired, and I know he's out there at GB the Woodlands. What do you know about Jake?
Jake's a really, really good man. I've had the opportunity to watch him come up, as a young pro. I think he started training at the 1960 location. We have a really cool history to where, like, Gracie Baja the Woodlands originally, under Chad Robo, grew immensely. And we kind of splintered off and went in three different directions. He was a little bit forward thinking and saw the potential in Magnolia, Texas, but he was a little bit ahead of the curve, and it wasn't able to last, just because, like, it hadn't grown, quite as large to where it's at now. But then he also put a gym out there in 1960, and I believe Jake was part of that 1960 crew. Jared Chafee went out there. I'm trying to think of some other people that went out there, but Jake has had quite the career. If you've ever locked up with him, it feels like you're wrestling with a steel rebar. Real, fundamentally sound game. Once he gets those clamps on you, it's game over. I was very happy and proud to see him retire after the big W. To actually lay the gloves down after a win is huge. It's like riding off into the sunset, and most people, when they lay those gloves down, it's typically after a loss. But to have the wisdom to know that, my body cannot take this pounding anymore, and this is going to be my swan song. I think it was a beautiful ending to a beautiful career. I mean, heck, dude almost died, right? Got shot, almost bled out in the middle of the country, life-flighted, and to come back to the game and end on a win, I think it's incredibly inspiring. And he's a good dude. He's a really, really good man.
Yeah, I like Jake, and it was really cool to watch, him fight over these years that I've been watching, but he's been fighting for a long time. You mentioned Alex Morano, and over there at GB Woodlands, him too. You see some of these old flyers,
yes.
And Jake Heffernan's on it, Alex Morano's on it, really what I would call, pioneers of this Houston MMA community, right?
Yeah, you're not wrong, Lone Star Beatdown days and, old legacy shows at the Houston Arena Theater, and watching Garcia, build up his promotion. Like, it was cool to be a part of it and to watch it as it happened. You could tell that Houston was going to be special. And it's cool to see a lot of those pioneer gyms are still around too, like 4 Ounce and Our Spot and Revolution. Like, all these spots have managed to grow and maintain. And, Texas is becoming the mecca, for jiu-jitsu and mixed martial arts. So we're just getting started,
Right.
On this end.
and you see and you've seen it, I'm sure firsthand, but the natural, that evolution of growth of even a gym like 4 Ounce Fight Club, who's still producing guys going to the UFC, very, very high level guys. But if you look back, you know, who all was there and where are these guys, you know, that are now, as, you know, just things happen and, you know, good, I'm sure, but hey, I'm gonna start my own gym, or I'm going out to this area and these other things. But it's actually, I just think about it, it's like, man, I would love to hear those stories, good and bad, of how that happened, because there's these high level gyms that have popped out of friends, you know, cross training. They're still all doing these things, but it's like
Jeremy Mahone over there, you know, at War, and then, you know, Crew Bob over there at, you know, his downtown, you know, Muay Thai and MMA spot. I mean, it's been a beautiful evolution. I think some of those were like outgrowings of what, like Silverback Tony back in the day. So it's a beautiful story. You know, it's an evolution, and the evolution is, you know, still, you know, occurring right in front of our eyes, and we've got the next generation of champions blossoming, you know, right here in Houston, Texas, you know, under the Fury banner. So shout out Eric Garcia and all those boys.
Mm-hmm. And I saw Richard Copley out of War had made a post the other day talking about how, I guess, high level Texas MMA is in general. Not even just Houston, but Texas has some real fighters and opportunities for fighters not to have to leave. And he was saying that, you know, before, a lot of people, I think that they felt they had to leave Houston, but even just Texas MMA right now is really flourishing overall.
Yeah, I think just in general, like when you look at our state, it's becoming a place where other people are having to flee to in order to get noticed. Even like in the professional wrestling world, like we were talking earlier, you know, about Clay and Reality of Wrestling and some of these other organizations, New Texas. And in the same boat, they used to feel like they had to, you know, leave in order to get noticed. And there's some merit to that, right? Like grow your viewership, you know, across the country. But slowly, like, we're becoming the Mecca. People need to come down here and transplant, you know, and get the platform by coming to H-Town. So it's beautiful. It's like in all sense, even like the media too, like a spot like your own, like we're becoming it, and it's okay to recognize that, you know, and to pat ourselves on the back every once in a while that we're becoming a destination spot in all regards: food, media, fighting, wrestling, actors, actresses. Houston's the spot, man.
Mm-hmm. I remember when New Texas started, Kiefer Bartek, and I think it was Terrell Tempo, and then JJ Blake, and they started training and doing all those different things. But I've had the chance to interview Kiefer and JJ Blake, and it is cool to see how that happens. Yeah, and then even the young people, because you see this, you know, talking about Reality of Wrestling, you know, Gino just wrestled again. You know, I think he had a couple years off and injuries and going through, you know, what life does to us to all. And I know he's still high level. I didn't have a chance to watch it. But just seeing the training room and the background where, you know, Reality Wrestling will post like some of these guys that are like what they would call OGs.
Yes. He's a Houston OG.
Yeah, he is.
And it even goes deeper than that, right? Like his father being a professional wrestler and his father passing away. And like, for me, like that's a story that's like 15, 20 years in the making. And, you know, when he does make it to the grandest stage, which I do believe, you know, the heartthrob will, it's going to make for, you know, one hell of a story. And you needed every single part of that, right? Mm-hmm. You needed the beginning. You needed going out to Florida, you know, to find yourself. You needed coming back home to, you know, show the world what you've been working on. And I can't wait. You know, he's a good dude. And all of these dudes over there, Reality of Wrestling, New Texas, Kiefer, JJ, you know, Book, Gilmore, Kevin Neal, like good people. They're helping young people, you know, find themselves and chase their dreams. And that's admirable. That's very admirable.
So you said you had been training jiu-jitsu for 15 years. Were you a pro wrestling fan before, or how did this work and happen for you?
I love pro wrestling. So there's like there's a core memory I have of watching WrestleMania 3 at my grandfather's house, and all my uncles and my brother, and it was a magical moment. I think number one because like it's one of the greatest WrestleManias just in the history of professional wrestling. Out there in the Pontiac Silverdome, it was the largest crowd ever. Hogan versus the Giant. But then the other part is that I have all my family there, and everyone's laughing and they're joking and they're having a good time, and there's camaraderie and there's brotherhood. You know, so when you take a spectacle like that and then you merge it, with the family atmosphere. Like, it was one of those core memories, and it's embedded in me now. Like, I love professional wrestling the same way I love martial arts at this point. I'm actually trying to work very hard on making both of those a reality once I get out of teaching and coaching in a few years.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever want to be a wrestler?
Oh, man. I don't know if I ever wanted to be. I would tell you this, I'd walk around like I was Bret the Hitman Hart in the house going, hey, me and my brother would have these wrestling matches in the living room. It's lucky we didn't break anything. It's lucky his back is still functioning after all the sharpshooters and Boston crabs I had to put on him. But no, not necessarily. But I do want to get into the management game,
Mm-hmm.
Like, I do see myself creating this character, that comes in, like, with the martial arts background, spots talent, helps grow talent, and then I could play the good coach and the bad coach. I could be the coach that presses too hard and, takes his athlete into the dark side, or I can be the uplifting coach, the one that's able to take someone that doesn't believe in themselves to great heights.
Yeah.
So right now I'm currently trying to sell the boys over there at Rowe and New Texas on that idea, because I can't teach and coach forever, and I want to have fun in this thing called life, because we don't got too many years, in front of us. You gotta enjoy while we're here.
I think you mentioned earlier before we started that you will go to reality wrestling and teach some of the guys and girls there
Mm-hmm.
jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. So I reached out. It was probably when I was a brown belt, so this is years and years ago, to Charmel, Book's wife. Like, hey, I love wrestling. I'm a practicing Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy. I would love to share my knowledge, with some of the boys and girls over there, and they welcomed me with open arms, no questions asked. And, he just went up there, ran him through some drills, some technique, a little, rolling at the end, and, gained their respect, So anytime I reach out and I call Kevin, and say, hey, Kev, you mind if I go up there and work with the boys? Or if I call Kiefer over there in New Texas, because they got their wrestling school now too.
Mm-hmm.
Houston, I think it's Premier Wrestling School. They welcome me with open arms. They say, hey, how about a Wednesday, Thursday? Will that work for you? And I'm like, perfect. I'll be up there. It's my way of giving back. It's just like teaching in the classroom, but it's a little more sweeter because everyone that's in the room with you is chasing a dream. It doesn't always feel like that inside of a classroom. You may have a classroom of 30 kids, and it's probably like half the class is like, yes, I really want to absorb this, and the other half is wanting to look at their phone or, gossip or just do what kids do, right? But you go over there and every single person's invested in why they're there, and they're trying to soak up that knowledge. And they're good athletes too. Like, you stick around and roll with them after class. Got some good athletes. Got some people that used to play, high school football, and wrestled in high school, and it makes, for very fun and interesting classes. Plus, they learn really quick. Their skill acquisition is top notch.
The conditioning to be able to do something like pro wrestling is very high. I've seen the training sessions that they put those guys and girls through, and it looks like a giant challenge. So I imagine that would,
Yeah,
it translates over.
I like the fact that they make them quote unquote pay their dues, before they step into the ring. So there's like some things they need to do exercise wise before they're able to enter that ring, so to speak. And it just kind of shows that, like, I'm here for the right reasons, and it's kind of like pruning, like a bush that's got too much. You figure out who's truly invested by who's, ready, willing, and able to pay those dues. Because the idea of being a wrestler and actually becoming one, those are like two different things from what I've seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and they are paying. They want to be there. Like you said, it's like the difference between a classroom. Like, they would be happy to be there, chasing.
It feels like a martial arts school, kind of like a jiu-jitsu
Mm-hmm.
school, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it's fun. What led you to find jiu-jitsu?
So I played high school and collegiate sports, played, college baseball, college rugby. And there's something about, like, the camaraderie and the brotherhood, right? And we all, at some point, it bottlenecks, and you can't play anymore for whatever reason, so pick up basketball wasn't doing it for me anymore, and beer league softball wasn't doing it for me anymore. I wanted an activity where I could find that brotherhood, get the exercise in, and be a little more time efficient too, because my kids were very young at the time. So I saw this Gracie Baja Woodlands over here, and then I'm trying to think of the other spot. It was an MMA gym, and I walked into both of them, and one looked to be more of like a tough guy gym, to where you're going to go in there and you're going to scrap every day. And I don't know how much you were actually going to learn, but you were going to get tougher. And some of the people that came out of there were extremely tough and talented individuals, but it just didn't look like there was any longevity in that. And then I walked into the Gracie Baja School, and I saw like a class, a curriculum, a technique being shown, a brotherhood. And I stuck around, took a couple of classes, had a Chad Robo, all 5'3" of them, 100 and maybe 40 pounds at the time. I went in for my first trial, and him and another guy named Chad Kite rolled with them, after my first class. And the way that they were able to toy with me physically, they were having side conversations while they were sweeping me over their head and, effortlessly, submitting me, every 30 seconds. I was like, I got to learn this wizardry. Like, this is some really cool stuff. And I fancied myself a very good athlete. Like I thought, hey, I played college rugby at a high level. Like, these guys ain't going to be nothing. No, I learned real quick. So that's how I found Brazilian jiu-jitsu, just poking my nose in there. Funny story, too, is like I drove around for 2 weeks outside the front door, like just trying to work up the courage to get in. And after that second week, I was like, all right, I'm going to walk in. But it's a little bit scary. And you understand, you're a Brazilian jiu-jitsu athlete. I imagine it wasn't easy the first time you walked in.
Right. No, it isn't. And even sometimes if you're like, I'm going to visit a gym, because it's something unfamiliar, and it's like, hey, am I in the right spot? How's it going, everybody? You don't know the rules. Sometimes things are the same, and sometimes they're a little bit different. But after you go that first time, after that, it's like usually nothing. So
yeah, the etiquette, right?
Right.
You are right, though. Like, you go in there with the different association on your back, and everyone's going to want to test you.
Are they judging me? Are they going to test me? Am I rolling too hard? Am I from out of town? Like, whenever I do go out of town, I always try and drop in, like, hey, we're going to be, last year I went to Nashville around Thanksgiving time. I'm like, or I'll ask, one of my coaches or professor, like, hey, what's around here? Or ask people, because they know, people know. It's the community's it can get small.
It's a wonderful community too. Like at the end of the day, like you fist bump, you hug, and I wish more people trained. It would make for a much better world, all the way around. Like, people's nutrition would be better, would be more hydrated, less ego running around. Like, it's almost what the world's missing. There should almost be like a prerequisite that you take a little bit of jiu-jitsu, before you move on to the next stage of your life.
Yeah. How did you end up being a teacher?
So it's something I kind of always wanted to do. I remember, I looked up to my coaches growing up. I played baseball, and for me, baseball was the hook. I had no interest in school whatsoever. School was not interesting. There was nothing that they were selling me that made me want to just, go. I went to school for fear of my mom, beating me with the belt, if I messed up. But like, once I found baseball and those coaches, invested in me, it kind of like turned the educational experience around, so I wanted to be that same person, for the young people in our school, because if you were to go back in time and look at me as like a 7th, 8th grader, 9th grader, like, you would have shook in your head and said, nah, man, dude's going to be laying concrete or something, or pushing a lawnmower or whatnot. Like, I don't see a bright future for that young man. But having important people in your life that you look up to, that invest in you and pump confidence into you, that was something that I wanted to do for others. I think there's more people like myself, more kids like myself in school than we realize. And I think it's important that we put good people in front of them and just get them through the schooling process in general, because it's not easy for everybody. Playing the game of school it's actually quite difficult. And not everyone's built to sit in a chair for 8 hours a day. I can't do it. Can you?
No. Yeah, that is true. We send our kids there and kind of hold them to things that we wouldn't even hold ourselves to. Like, even and I've listened and read in some parenting books and stuff like that, where I don't always respond whenever someone says something I don't like, so just trying to have that empathy, I guess, or understanding towards young people. That is great.
It's wild, because some of the same behaviors, like get off your phone, right? Look, let's be honest, man. I know a lot of these teachers at the school that I work at, they got their phone out and they're sitting there playing with it while there's an in-service going on. So I look and I shake my head and I'm like, there's a clear double standard here, so not that we should take it easier on the kids or whatnot, but we should at least like understand that if I'm guilty of this, don't be surprised when you have to remind a 12 or 13-year-old to put their phone up. Mm-hmm. It's not the end of the world. It's just the way that life is right now, in 2024, right. So.
Are you from that Woodlands area on the north side or where?
No, I grew up, I'm from the north side, right? I grew up and went to Klein Forest High School. So Willowbrook Mall was the mall that was closest to us. But on occasion when we felt fancy, we're like, you know what, we're going to go hang out with the rich kids. We'd go to the Woodlands Mall. That was like a step up. We cruised down there and I always saw that area. And I was enamored at the sizes of the houses and the trees. And it just felt like a foreign land. So I did set a goal in my head to one day, live there. And it's funny. I'm living smack dab in the middle, as of 5 years ago. And it's a beautiful thing. I walk outside of my home and I look at it and I'm like, man, I dreamed about this. I thought about this, we made it happen. So it's cool, man, to be teaching, in your community, in a spot that you dreamt about, living one day.
Mm-hmm. Klein, they have, I think I see some wrestlers that come out of there. They have a wrestling program, huh?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I was watching one of your podcasts with Andrade, mm-hmm. that the young buck, man. It's a bad boy right there. I've seen him throw those hands. And I think he went to Klein High School. And I know, like, our high school program, it's College Park. And I'll have to put you in touch with this coach, man. One of the best coaches in the entire country. But his program's number 1 in the city, number 2 and 3 in the state. And College Park has a wonderful wrestling program that's year after year battling for that top spot. But Klein is one of the few Houston schools that they run up on, and Klein will give them stiff competition. So yeah, you're very right. Mm-hmm. Klein's got a very strong wrestling program.
So you played rugby for the school as well there?
I played rugby for Sam Houston State.
Okay.
And oh my God, what a beautiful sport! So
how did you find rugby? Did you play in high school before?
So like what happens is I went and played high school. I went and played college baseball for a little bit. It bottlenecked, and I got to a point to where, bigger, faster, stronger, better, people took over. I reached my end at that. And then I transferred over to Sam Houston State from a school in Missouri. And I was looking for something to do, and there's these wild boys, they're singing and they're drinking, at the bar. And I'm looking over, I'm like, man, who are these guys? And they're having fun and they're competing, and just went and, chatted. And, next thing I know, I'm being brought into this family of rugby players. And it was funny because the school had a rich history, but it was currently like an outlaw program, meaning like if they were to win enough to get to like a state or a regional level, they wouldn't have been able to qualify because, we had a couple of people that were playing that didn't meet the eligibility requirements just to keep the program alive. But we went from that. That's where we started. And then when I graduated, we took it all the way to a Final Four in the country, which was a really nice ride. But I highly recommend rugby for any athlete, the camaraderie. Like you go and you have beers with the person you just got through, going toe to toe with for 80 minutes. That's like none other. Like typically, like you have a competitor, you have someone that you're going against, and you're like, I don't even want to talk to this guy anymore. And after the game, you immediately go to a bar and you have a beer with them, and you even drink beer out of their shoe, and they drink beer out of your shoe. And next thing you know, people are getting naked and stuff, after they score their first, it's a thing. It's called doing a Zulu. And after you score for the first time, man, you got to get naked, man, and dance, so it's a wonderful, wonderful sport. Not for the Zulu aspect, but some of my best friends, I'm still connected to because of those memories. There's like 10 of us sleeping in a room. Like we'd go play LSU and we'd had to pay for it out of money in our own pocket. And we'd all 10 shack up in a one, bed motel out there, in Baton Rouge. And you can't duplicate those memories, man.
I have a friend. She went to the Woodlands and she played rugby over there. So I don't know. I'm guessing they still have a rugby program.
Their youth program is super stout, especially on their ladies' side too. That's a spot like when the collegiate players get through playing, the Woodlands does a very good job of absorbing a lot of the talent. And now we have the Houston SaberCats, which is starting to absorb some talent. So I think rugby is almost like on an MMA trajectory, not quite, as steep, but it's growing in popularity. And a lot of it has to do with the social aspect of rugby. There's just something special about, shedding blood, sweat and tears with somebody that just bonds you for life.
Is it pretty hard on your body?
80 minutes is a full game. There's some subtle differences. There's no timeouts, right? So in the NFL, you see timeouts all the time. There's no timeouts in rugby, right? If you go out of bounds, like you give the other team the ball. In football, people just run out of bounds to avoid a hit or something. Like in rugby, you go out of bounds, you just turn the ball over and gave it to the other team. And you'll see people play through some things in rugby where they wouldn't do it in other sports. And I think it's about the love that you have for the person to the left and the person to the right of you. At the same time, it's also like a little more safer. Like when you don't wear a helmet, you tend to like try to tackle properly and correctly. And there's penalties for not, tackling properly and correctly. So it's more of a safe sport. You're going to have far less concussions in rugby because you don't have a false sense of security.
Yeah.
So I think it's a sport that's on the rise. Again, not as steep as MMA and jiu-jitsu, but it's definitely trending in the right direction.
That's cool. Yeah. Would you say it's easy for someone to get into and watch, or like to even understand the rules?
No, it's not easy to understand the rules. It took me a year of playing, and I still kind of would have my own infractions from time to time in the middle of a game, and it took me the better half of a year to understand. But it's incredibly entertaining because like the action is nonstop. Not having timeouts and just the game flowing, it's a little bit easier on the eyes. I'd much rather watch a rugby game than a football game.
Mm-hmm. Would you say if it was an audience that wasn't aware with either, is jiu-jitsu easier to watch or is rugby easier to watch?
Oh, man.
In the gi?
Man, probably rugby.
Probably rugby.
Yeah. I think for us that practice, we see the beauty in the subtleties, of the jiu-jitsu game, and we understand what's going on. But a lot of times it could look like, two people locked in one position for a while, and waiting for the last minute to get an advantage. Whereas rugby, there's perpetual movement. Every different position has a different kind of body type. That's a specialist. And you can see some breakaways, or you can see some, gritty and grimy play on the inside, or some speed and quickness on the outside. I would rather watch a rugby game, just being honest, man.
Yeah.
I would much rather practice jiu-jitsu, though.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that, jiu-jitsu sometimes in the gi, you have to practice it.
Yes.
So, like, what's the, to take that mainstream, obviously, no gi, I would say, is probably easier to watch. But, that's interesting, yeah. Because I've seen, like, rugby highlights, but I've never sat and tried to watch a rugby match.
Yeah, it's a long time. You're going to have to invest the better part of a couple of hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, the way that the world is, like, who's got a couple of hours just to sit and watch stuff?
Right.
It's tough. I like watching highlights now. I don't watch entire games of, I don't think, anything.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about your podcast.
Oh, my God. Really neat. Much like yourself, I think those of us in the podcast space, I think we're in the business of telling stories. We're helping stories get out. So started off on my little iPhone, sat it in between me, and my guest. And for, about 130, 140 episodes, like that was it. Bring people in, go meet them somewhere, have a conversation, upload. And kind of just like grew and grew, got someone reached out to me saying, hey, I like what you're doing. It was actually Brad Gilmore. He's like, I like the consistency, I like the content, I like the people you're talking to. He goes, would you like to be part of the Gilmore Network? I was like, hell yeah, I'd like to be part of the Gilmore Network. It was a sign of like I'm doing something right. And then probably about a month later, I had someone else reach out to me, and Josh Ricks, and he's got some of the best, video production that I've seen around, but he's a teacher also. And he's like, hey, like what you're doing, let's meet up, let's make something happen, let's talk. And we graduated to, doing a film, in one of my spare bedrooms. And then I had a couple other people reach out and say, hey, if you want to, you can use our spot. Jesse Robinson, Dr. Jesse Robinson, allowing us to use his psychiatry practice as a backdrop. The Ome Kali Cafe over there in the Woodlands, Texas, allowing us to use his cafe as a backdrop. So the podcast is a wonderful thing. Unfortunately, I haven't recorded, I think, since probably February or March. There was too much going on in my life. And I think sometimes in a pursuit of chasing what we love, we drive ourselves crazy. I was making myself sick. I was moody. I was staying up late. There was a bunch of things that go into podcasting that me and you were talking about earlier that I don't think people take into account. And in order to maintain my sanity, I had to pull back on some things. So I want to continue, to film and record the Be Someone podcast. But I'm going to wait until my junior high basketball season's over for my team. I'm going to wait until my track season is over and take a deep breath, recalibrate, and then do it, right and properly. Because I don't think there's anything worth risking our health over. Mm-hmm. And I got to a point where there was one day, man, where I thought I was having a heart attack. Sat on my couch and it felt like I had a 45-pound weight on my chest, and I was about to go wake my wife up and tell her to take me to the emergency room. But, I was doing book tours for the books, that I've been writing, trying to schedule podcasts, coaching, training, 3-4 times a week. It became too much. So we're going to get that bad boy, though, cranked up. And I'd love to have you and Kurt, come on, because I am enamored with y'all's story. I couldn't help but ask about, your story, because I think that's my default setting. I'm curious about people.
Whenever you do look for guests, are you looking for the story, or what kind of piques your interest, or how do you go about finding the right people?
I like people that I find interesting, so because of social media, we have access to everybody. And I see different things, and I've cast a wide net because of all the things that I've done. I've met a lot of people, so it's allowed me to be able to reach out to people and get these conversations that I've been wanting. And I think it's really neat too, platforming young people that are in pursuit of their dream, for a couple of different reasons. Number one, it's just the right thing to do. Right? That story, it's beautiful, and it can inspire you and it can inspire others. But something else I think that's really neat is when you bring someone on your show and it's early on in their career, now you've established a relationship and you can grow alongside them, and as they go through the journey of being, say, a Fury amateur fighter, and then they get into the Fury professional, and then, hey, they capture the championship. Next thing you know, they're on Dana White's Contender Series, and now you've got this really beautiful relationship where both of y'all have symbiotically grown, and you always have that conversation that's just always a text away. Yeah. And they don't forget. That's the cool thing.
Yeah.
They don't forget. They remember. Actually, they appreciate for the most part.
And that was really cool for me. Yeah, this year, because maybe about 2.5 years ago, I interviewed Cody Steele and Michael Aswell. Mm-hmm. Cody Steele was about to make his MMA amateur debut, and Michael Aswell was maybe 1-0. He had made maybe 2-0, but it was, he's been fighting since he was 17 years old. But it is cool to see. So it's man, just hey, both on Contender Series and both UFC guys now. Yep. So man, no, I love it, and I love even talking about Jay. Next Level wrestled at at Klein and all that. I know. That dude has a chip on his shoulder, and he's a dog, and just I've seen him train. He's young and hungry.
I like his story too. When I was listening to his podcast, hearing about him getting in trouble in school and school not necessarily being for him, I almost feel like it was a good call, to pull him out of school. If he keeps hitting his head against the wall, and this structure, we'll call it, public education, is just not a box that he can fit in and play in. It's a good call. Let him take all that energy that he has and let him pour it into something that he really wants to do. I promise you, they're going to get more out of that than they are trying to teach him Algebra 2. And what is the likelihood that he's going to take Algebra 2 and do something with it? It's very small. I don't even do anything with Algebra 2. I'm glad I learned it, but Let's be honest. It has served me zero purpose other than, obtaining my college degree. Maybe if you're going to be an architect or something, right? Or there's places where you could use it. But I think that was a really good call, pulling them out and letting them just train full time.
Yeah, and you see that in combat sports. Some of these young jiu-jitsu, athletes just, homeschool. And then they go train, but they're also doing like, you're on the mat with somebody, and I'm like, hey, what are you looking on? And they have like flashcards. This is my, I'm homeschooled and doing my vocabulary words and stuff like this. I need to know the definite, like all this stuff. So it's actually, I can't imagine being that being me, I guess, at that age, but maybe it could have been. I don't know.
Well, school serves a purpose, right? Like we're there definitely to learn some information. Like that goes without saying. But also, like, it teaches us to, get along with our peers. We may get an opportunity to interact with people that are not like us. Like, there's a lot of life skills that we get out of school. The education is a part of it, but it's not all of it, So for people that bash public education, it's not just about what you're learning in the classes, but it's like walking in the hallways, and maybe, you grow up in a neighborhood that's predominantly Hispanic, and then you get to hang with the brothers. Now you know how to interact, with someone that doesn't look and act like you. And that's good. That's a transferable skill, So I think public education could do a better job of marketing all the in-betweens, because it's not just, if all we're going to do is like measure test scores, well, you know what, it may look bad at times, but it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that, and I'm actually, and I don't know if you have it on your docket to talk about, but like, I'm wanting to get Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, into public education, because I do see kids like Andrade, and I do see, kids like the Diaz brothers and Bobby King Green and, Sean Strickland. Like, there's a bunch of young people that maybe if they had a combat sport to lean on inside of the school day, somewhere where they could go put 2 hours, of blood, sweat, and tears to work, where they could learn something that's interesting to them, maybe they could have like extended the school experience or whatnot and been able to extract a little bit more, of that knowledge for them to take with them. Plus, like, it's our duty to supply these kids, with usable skills. And if you want to look at it even a bigger picture, like, it's becoming a career path. So we do it for football, we do it for baseball, volleyball. Like, it may be time that, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu starts to poke its nose inside of the public education sector, because supposedly, like, we're doing what's right for kids.
What do you think is the path to make that happen?
The path. This is why I reached out to you, man. Like, I have knocked on a lot of doors. I've sent a lot of emails, and when you do that, people can conveniently not answer you, or they can just shoot you a quick, reply like, "Oh, it's not in the budget," or this, that, and the other. So one of the things I've learned from jiu-jitsu is like, if one path is not there, then you reroute, and then you figure out another path. So I want to take to social media, and I want to get the word out and say, hey, there's this new and interesting idea. Let me take your tough kids, the one that's sitting in ISS, and he's in ISS every day, for the same things. And y'all keep trying this, but it's not working for him. How about we try something different? And I want to take to social media, and hopefully, like, it could gain some traction if a conversation get started. Like, all I need is, for this clip to go viral, right? And maybe for Joe Rogan to hear about it. He's always championing the cause of jiu-jitsu on his podcast, right? And for him just to speak about it a little bit. Now the public discourse becomes a thing, and now it's out there in the zeitgeist for everyone to discuss. It could be Lex, it could be Jocko, but the way that I see it is that I'm targeting, schools, and I want their toughest students. I want those, let's call them like those 10 to 15 students that are perpetually in trouble, and they take up probably like 80% of the administrator's time. Like, hey, bring them on down to Coach Ortiz, man. Give me a wrestling room, give me some mats. I imagine like I could fundraise and come up with the money from sponsors and donors to outfit my kids with gis or rash guards or whatnot, and just find something for them to pour their hearts into that is a little bit outside of the box. I know what it's done for me. I imagine, you could tell countless stories of how jiu-jitsu has benefited you. But I just want that opportunity.
Would there be room for kids who already train in there as well?
I would love it. I think that would actually make for a better mix, because I think for everything to go right, you're going to need a little bit of experience, right? Like there's nothing more dangerous than two white belts going at it. So I think a sprinkling in of some of the school's best and brightest would also be cool, whether it be like a wrestling background, a jiu-jitsu background. And every school's got kids that are training now.
Right.
This is not like a weird thing. And if I was to ask the teachers or make them aware of who's training, they would tell you, like, these are my best students. These kids are always on time. They're chill. They turn in their work. Their work, is of the best quality. They are almost like the cream of the crop of the school, but they're not. No one's really aware that they're training because it's not a school sport. And I could say the same for our young wrestlers and whatnot. Like something about combat sports, it mellows you out because of the energy expenditure. But there's also like I don't want to say a watering down of the ego, but you don't have to. Your confidence is increased. Therefore, like you don't have to put your ego on full display like a rooster with your chest out. You just walk in nice and chill because you already know you're the baddest dude in the room. So you don't have to act like the chihuahua that has to tell everyone they're the baddest dude in the room. You walk in calm, cool, and collected. And I think we could use more of that in school. There's a bunch of there's slap boxing going on, inside of the restrooms. Everywhere. These kids film videos of this stuff. I walked in on a incident this year, and kids are itching to find out this pecking order, and they're itching to get into these things. I think it's time that public education opened its eyes. Like, there's still fights going on in the cafeteria, right? They're still fighting in the bathroom. They're still fighting in the gym. People say that it's dangerous. Well, there were 7 kids the last time I checked just this year that have died from football injuries, whether it be heat related illness, concussion, or like something that occurred as a result of a hit. Like these things are happening. Jiu-jitsu is not any more dangerous than football.
Yeah. To me it seems like they have chess clubs and there's these different clubs. So if there was a jiu-jitsu club at a school and one of the kids practices or trains jiu-jitsu, or they have an interest to be like, oh yeah, I feel like there would be a huge response, or there could be a huge response, and they would find a place. But then even having that, like you said, the administration being like, well, maybe we can put him in this, here are your options.
Yeah.
And I think this may be a good option for you to go in here to learn something, because there's a lot. And I'm sure there's studies of this. I haven't done the research, but just seeing how can jiu-jitsu change, or even testimonials. I'm sure you could find a ton of testimonials, evidence. People will testify to that. Yeah, this made a big difference.
Yeah, it's there. It's just someone needs to take a chance. And there's a couple of spots. I know, like in Kansas City, there's a guy named Rayvon Freeman that's started one jiu-jitsu club, and he's had to jump through a number of hoops, but he finally got someone to take a chance on him. And it's with a bunch of elementary students, which is a little bit younger than what I'm looking for. But nonetheless, like, he's jumped through the hoops and he's gotten something started. And apparently there's something out there in Arizona too. I forget the name of it. But speaking of Rayvon, he said, like, man, I went out there and looked at what they got going on. He goes, that's the dream. He goes, the setup, the facility, the school. He's like, they're doing it right. He goes, I know it can be done because I've seen it with my own 2 eyes. So that's kind of my mission right now. I've been teaching 21 years. I'm in that legacy portion, like where you want to leave it better than how you found it. And this is my mission and this is my goal. So I want to say thank you to you for giving me a platform to speak on this, and anyone else that's out there listening. I want to speak about this because I know that it's done a lot of good for me, and it wouldn't be an issue to get, other dudes to talk about the good it's done for them.
Yeah.
As time has come, man.
I want to talk a little bit about the coaching, because I know you said track, girls basketball. What have you coached so far? Is there anything that you haven't coached that you want to? Or what is there a favorite that you have? Or how are the teams doing? How's it going?
I like basketball. I never actually even played basketball, growing up in a traditional setting. But basketball was also like one of those things that it's what we would do when we weren't playing our primary sport. So Like before even like a high school varsity baseball game, we'd go to our buddy's house, eat, and we'd all go hoop before the game. It's probably a bad idea looking back, but that's what we would do, you know. And in the in-between time, you know, we'd go hoop. So basketball was always like really close to my heart because it meant community. It meant I'm going to spend time with friends, and I was going to get a good workout in. I love coaching basketball because of like the strategy aspect. It's almost like moving chess pieces on a chessboard, you know, and you could really, really, really use your brain and get some like real minute, you know, tactical advantages if you know and understand the game. But it's also like an opportunity for you to like teach life lessons, because again, that's the hook. Not everyone is always interested in the classroom. They go to the classroom because they have to go. But like when you coach, you have a captive audience and they're hanging on your every word. So this is like where you impart the good stuff. This is where like you teach kids about like discipline. This is where you teach kids, you know, about motivation, you know, about the value of being on time. So it's always been the vehicle for my message. I love basketball. Now, if we're being honest, like which one in the moment do I enjoy training the most or coaching the most? Track is so chill. The weather's beautiful. You're outside, which kids don't get enough sunlight anymore, you know. And there's an aspect to it to where like the kids are responsible for themselves. Like they come and they check in with you, but they're going in 100 different places. So they have to take care of themselves and they have to be responsible for themselves. They have to help me, the coach, by coaching some of their teammates when I'm stuck, let's say like measuring in the long and the triple jump pick. So my favorite is a track season, but the one I enjoy playing the most would be basketball. Like it's all good. Working with motivated individuals is really like, that's the sweet spot. I love teaching too, but I wish everyone was motivated.
What subject do you teach?
Really cool subject. It's called teen leadership. So things like making good first impressions. Like kids don't understand the value in that. They don't know that by that first impression, I've already judged you, you know, for however long, you know. So if you come in and you roll your eyes at me and you don't shake my hand, whether it's on purpose or just subconsciously, like I've already made an assumption about you. And like instructing kids on like, go nail that first impression. Like if you do it right, you're in the sweet spot until you prove them wrong. Like to me, that's like something that's actually applicable to real life. Whereas I'll keep going back to algebra. Algebra may not be applicable, but learning to make a good first impression and, you know, proper eye contact and shaking hands and setting goals and, you know, establishing your values. Like I love my subject area. I just wish that everybody was invested, you know, and I'd say about 80%, 85% of the students come in and they're soaking it up. And, you know, and the other 15%, for whatever reason, it could be home life, you know, it could be a number of different things. They may not be as invested, you know, but it's a beautiful subject. I think every kid should have to learn it. Like it should be a prerequisite.
That's cool. I've never heard of that. My oldest son is about to turn 12 in less than a month.
You look too young to have a 12-year-old, man.
he's about to be it. I tell him, like, dude, when you go to school, I was like, just pay attention. Like, that's the only thing, like with math, because sometimes he's doing really good. And there has been times where it's been a struggle, but I'm like, dude, I can teach you how to do this the best that I know how. There's a lot of things I don't remember, but if you pay attention, and he's been blessed to have a teacher that will work with him, you know, and it's good to have good teachers because it's like, hey, even FaceTime me, show up before school, you know, I'll help you. You know, you have a quiz that day or next week, come on, you know, this day, this time, come before, I'll work with you, all this, let me FaceTime this, send pictures, all that. It's like, man, that's an awesome teacher. Yeah, to have that.
Math is weird, right? Like they're teaching it differently than how you learned.
Right. Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Like I couldn't even help my son and my daughter with their homework because it was taught differently. Mm-hmm. And then our kids look at us dumb, like, well, what are you doing? It's like, no, baby, this works.
I know. Yeah. It's like, it's the same. You're getting the same result a different way, but obviously the teacher and the system or whatever, they want them to learn that way for those reasons. And I'm like, I wasn't there. So I need you to pay attention,
Yeah.
take notes. And I'm, thankful when there's a teacher like to send this or having questions or even text. They have all these apps now.
Dude, well, let me spit some free game real quick, for our students. I don't know how many students actually listen to a podcast like this, but guys, sit up at the front of the classroom, just by sitting up at the front, whether you realize it or not, like you're going to absorb it. I know like osmosis isn't really a thing with us, but it kind of is when you sit up at the front of the classroom. Make sure that you try 100% of the time, whether or not you get the outcome that you want. That's besides the point. But by simply trying, what you're doing is you're showing the teacher that I care about what you're saying. And when it comes down to putting those grades, listen, as much of an objective thing as like a report card score is and whatnot, if a student tries, it's very hard to fail a student that's continually trying, so make sure you're in tutorials, make sure that you're doing the little extra stuff. Like you're going to be successful because that's something that's transferable effort, and sometimes kids fall into this pit of if I didn't try, I didn't necessarily fail. It's like, you failed twice. So also pattern recognition. Kids, I would say, figure out your teacher's patterns and just like ace those patterns. If like when you walk in, the expectation is to find the warm-up, take care of the warm-up, and then get today's assignment out. Like something as little as that, nail it, because there's a human aspect to education. It's not all numbers. And the more that you can pinpoint your teacher's tendencies and their patterns, it makes the class more predictable. And if the class is more predictable, man, like you're going to do better. It's like your training partners, right? Like, some dudes that, this guy's going to sit up and try and hit the underhook. I'm going to throw that guillotine on him. It's the same concept. It's just a pattern recognition thing.
That is cool. It's fun to roll with new people
Oh,
because they don't know your patterns and you don't know their patterns. And it's a good judgment of where you're actually at. It's fun.
Heck yeah.
Let's talk about flow state. What is that?
Man, I'm glad you asked. It's this new children's book that I had just gotten through writing. I've written 6 children's books, speak of the devil. And this last one is it's like my love letter to martial arts, because I think through martial arts, I've learned some of life's greatest lessons. And it pains me that I had to wait till I was like 30 or 29 to start learning these things. But I wanted to take these life lessons, and impart them on to our young people, so like discipline is something that I've picked up in martial arts, being able to cool my ego and continually, walk into the door. The person I was before martial arts is not the person that I am, post martial arts. I made a lot of mistakes and things that I really wish that I could take back. Things that I look back on, I'm like, what was I doing? That wasn't smart. You put your family at risk. You put your livelihood at risk. And because of martial arts, jiu-jitsu to be specific, I've been able to craft myself into a better human being. So every page is a different life lesson that one can learn from practicing martial arts. And I just wanted to highlight each of those points. One of the cool things, though, is like I took some of the Houston's MMA luminaries, like your Bob Perez's, your Alex Moranos, your Jeremy Mahones, your, Eric Sputes. And I asked their permission, could I please use you in my artwork? Because I've been around and I've watched their athletes. I've gotten an opportunity to watch them, coach. Michael Corley, who I'm going to go see after this. And this was kind of also like a thank you to them, because like what they're doing is they're changing the world. They got a core group of maybe 100, 200 students underneath their roof, but like they're making the world a better place by what they're teaching. So I wanted to, holler at them and give them a shout out in my book. So they're littered throughout, the children's book. I got Mike holding pads for a little Muay Thai athlete, and you got Bob Perez watching his grandson hit on the bag, and just a bunch of stuff like that. I like to throw shout outs when I can. I think it's really neat. And I was lucky enough to get the green light from them.
That's cool. You mentioned those, those people, and I like whenever I have friends who maybe I didn't meet through martial arts or jiu-jitsu, but then I see them putting their kids into it and training at, Heritage Muay Thai, or you see the kids program at War and some of those things, and it's like, man, that has to be amazing for them,
Oh my God. Those kids have been given a gift, and those kids are different. Like I said, as someone that works inside of a school building with like 1,400 kids, and I know the kids that train, like those are our best, and those are our brightest, those are our calmest, those are our nicest. I really wish the world would take a look at combat sports and figure out like how can we implement this a little bit more, and make society a little bit better. So yeah, I got a unique perspective being able to work in my community, train in my community, teach in my community. Like, I see the good it can do. My job now is I got to get these decision makers, to see the good that it can do. And I think we're doing. Like I said, I appreciate you like you wouldn't even believe for giving me a platform to even speak about it. Because when it does happen, I'm a big believer in manifesting things. Like Guzman, Christian was saying,
yeah,
how he met Dana White, right? And like,
did you watch any of that match?
I don't got the fight pass, man.
Yeah,
balling on a budget over here.
Yeah, just to, he talked about manifesting, and I had actually made a reel of his game plan. I said, "Hey, what's your game plan?" He told me what was going to happen, and he ended up. It happened. He had he was like, well, maybe goes for a takedown. Maybe I'll stick hit a guillotine. He had two of the tightest guillotines, but it's just those MMA guys. You know how tough they are. Like a normal person, who's is tapping or going out or anything, but those were shot for the takedown. Boom, pulled up, high elbow guillotine 2 times, locked down. Like it was tight. And then he said, "Oh, maybe I'll go for a leg lock." And then on the second one, almost went for the leg. And he, as soon as he saw him come in for the leg, immediately back out, and then played for overtime, where he Pedro. Christian lost on points, but it was like,
that was a tight guillotine.
Dude, it was a super tight guillotine. I was like, man, it's still amazing. He did a great job.
No, Christian's a bad dude, man.
Yeah.
And he's got a really cool story too, growing that shoe store or that a collective, Space City Collective, and to watch it grow. So that's the other cool part about like what you do, right? Like you're able to highlight and platform other people reaching out and going after their dreams, and it's like proof that it can be done. And that's what I love about podcasting and love about watching podcasts. So did you ever get a chance to interview Brian Keith, one of Booker T's guys?
No, but I didn't, but he's out there doing it.
You should, man.
Yeah.
Like, let me tell you about manifesting, right? So like he came on my podcast and we spoke, and he specifically talked about a couple of different things, and I'll be damned if like 3 of his dreams occurred in one night. And
wow.
I was tripping out because I kind of felt like it was like the Truman Show or something, where like there's someone making calls in the ether and just making them happen. And the way that like 3 of his dreams occurred at one time was like being signed by a major, having his inspiration or like his favorite wrestler come out at that moment, to congratulate him. I forget what the third one was. But it's like it renews my faith that if we put our minds to something and if we work hard enough, like it could actually happen. Even like Jelly Roll, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, 40, and he new country artist of the year. Like, what? That's like, he's 40. That's not. He's not new. His music's new to the country scene, but that's really neat, man. Like there is no time limit or timeline.
One more question about the book. What is your goal or your hope for Flow State?
I would love for Flow State to be in the hands of any and everybody that has thought about training or wants to train, or maybe is just curious. I really feel like my style of writing, and if you look at all my books, I got 6 books. there's a very like Dr. Seuss feel to it. Like I love the rhyme pattern. I attribute it more to like hip hop music. That's like where I get that rhyme pattern and that rhyme scheme from. But then I just kind of infuse, pop culture, and things that are important to me, So I think if people would give it an opportunity, I think it's a fun read. I think it's an enlightening read. And I think that even if you're an adult, like you could pick it up and go, dude, this is dope. And I know Dr. Seuss took a while, before he blew up. He didn't put out his first piece of work and then everyone just loved it. It took a while. So I think once the world, on a mass scale picks it up and reads it and says like, wow, this is actually pretty good. I think like, I believe that I have lightning in a bottle, and I don't have like these visions of grandiose and grandeur and like I'm some like skilled writer. It's like, no, but I do care about what I write. I do enjoy storytelling, and it's from the heart. And I think those three elements make it something special. So it's like that for all my books.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. If someone wants to get the book, get a copy,
Ooh.
or follow the podcast, what's the best way for them to reach out to you and do all that?
I have a landing page. It's coachortiz.com. Ortiz, O-R-T-I-Z. And you can find all my socials over there. You could find links to purchase my books online. The podcast, can be located on there, and just anything else that you're looking for.
Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Man, I don't know. Hey, some school district, give me a chance, man. Give me a chance. It's going to take someone that's brave and that's bold. It's probably going to take someone that's in a position where they need something good to happen. They need a bit of good press. Hit your boy up, man. I'm ready to go over there and help make your school better from the ground up. I love the underdog. So one of these underdog schools, that's in a tough position and that wants to change the culture, hit me up, and let's be the first, or let's be at the precipice of doing this. Let's not jump on it after it's cool, because that's going to be a thing. It's going to be cool one day, and y'all are going to wish that y'all jumped on this earlier. Holler at me. And there's nothing special about me other than I care. I don't think I'm some special black belt. I'm a very average black belt. But I care, and I love what I do. I love jiu-jitsu. I love helping young people. So give me this opportunity, and I promise you, we can make your school a better place.
Awesome. Thanks for hanging out today, Chris. I appreciate you.
Dude, thank you, man. And I will return the favor when the podcast revamps after, it's probably the spring after track season. I'd love to have you and, Kurt come over, and I really want to help share y'all's story, because just being in y'all's spot, man, you've given me hope once again. So thank you, man. You're the real MVP.
Awesome. Thanks. This is Gardy with Clear Life Combat. Y'all be blessed.